I need a new strategy. As you can see, I didn't shower today. And though I had plans to do at least some productive stuff, I ended up sitting and watching Diary of a CEO podcast episodes. And then after that, I switched to true crime and random stuff like that. And man, there were some bizarre ones that I came across today, really bizarre. And then I happened upon a video about a teenager who crashed her car and wasn't wearing a seatbelt and ended up hanging up in the power lines from being ejected from the vehicle. She survived. She lost one of her legs. And she has such a good attitude, like about life and everything. And despite going through all that and, doing a lot to promote good, like public speaking and probably sharing, like wear your seatbelt and things like that. And here I am, and, I have everything that I need to do something. But there's some kind of block. I don't know if it's, quote, depression. I don't really feel depressed this time, though it's been going on for a few weeks. And, I could say, I don't have motivation, or I don't have this or that. Like, I can do the bare minimum that is required, like scheduled to do. Yesterday, I did manage to get up kind of early-ish, and I drove across the border to pick up my vitamins that I ordered. And I wanted to do that because, I have to pick them up within a certain period of time. And I wanted to start taking some of them. And then I need to go help somebody with something around that area. And that needed to be done on like a business day. And it was Monday. So I did manage to get myself to do that. And then today I wanted to do at least a little bit of something. And I didn't manage to do that. And I think it was last week, I guess I worked 3 days, and the week before that, I worked 4 days. So I did all that. But other than that kind of bare minimum, and also grocery shopping and like preparing food and stuff, like yesterday, I stopped at Costco to get some oat milk because I discovered that I really like coffee with oat milk as a treat, like decaf, because I'm trying to cut down on my caffeine. So I am moving towards doing more healthy stuff, like healthy eating. And I can't remember if I mentioned I ordered the Keto Mojo meter as well as some vitamins and some other vitamins. So I'm like, okay, yes, I'm going to be working on my health, but I can't seem to get out and do exercise. And I think I already talked about this, but I don't even remember. And that's the problem, is like I have very little memory or idea of what I'm doing. And it made me feel like I need to find some kind of co-creator person who is able to do the things that I don't have the skills for, but also do the thing that would keep the linear momentum going, like the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week progression. Because at some point in time, I totally lose it. And I think it's okay, because I won't keep saying I might have talked about this already. I'll just say it, because I don't know. I can't remember if I wrote it down or talked about it, but I feel like losing the iteration of what I was building is okay, because then I regroup and then see if I start building the same thing or a similar thing anew, or I use the same themes and values to create some other version of it, like did a presentation, did a book. Well, I can create with the same kind of context, I can create something else, like a course. So that's okay, but I probably don't need this stopping the momentum and stopping being able to know what I'm doing, like planning or making things go in linear steps to build something conceptually, and working on the computer and writing, like that is mostly gone. And at the same time, it's not necessarily bad in quotes, because a lot of that stuff has just been sort of added on to our lives. Maybe that's something that I'm supposed to learn can be really secondary, and like just taking care of my body and getting exercise and working can be what the primary focus should be. And that's what I did do years ago. I spent time like taking care of myself and rollerblading, and I didn't feel this need for all this context and writing and everything. And I also thought that since I just finished this 4 years of creativity, it was like very personally fulfilling. Like I wouldn't say it was like successful on the societal scale or anything like that. Maybe one day something will be like that, and doing the work that I did could be building towards that. And then being able to build my healthy embodiment is important for whatever's next as well. Like just continuing to go into context isn't like the greatest or healthiest thing. So in saying that, I think that the urgency at which I was creating over those 4 years, maybe that has come to an end, and maybe I won't feel an urgency to create conceptually and contextually and content. Maybe I will. And even if I do, over the last number of months, I felt like, okay, it's time to close the aperture. Like I have information overload sometimes. And I had a huge wave of it over the new year. And it just created such an expansion that it'll still take me a long time to even go back over that. Or maybe I won't go back over it. But I need to close that aperture to just not have like sticky notes everywhere, but be able to put it into something. And I have been able to do that. But with the book and the presentation, I'm still probably years behind the information that I've gleaned through channeling and other ways of knowing, basically. Like kind of knowing through the right brain, I would say. Like a more holistic way of knowing. And like having the sense of things sometimes that I don't even know how to put into words. And I'm kind of trying a little bit. But that's a challenge too. So anyways, just wondering if I need to amp up on those concepts again, or if it's sort of that period of really needing to harvest and kind of practice putting things into different projects for the last 4 years. Maybe that wave is over. And the reason I say that is because when I finished or was almost finished creating the Reuncovery system or framework, which is just like new, that's when I learned about medical assistance in dying coming for mental illness, which will be happening in 3 years, probably. And so I feel like my urgency was to have something ready that is something that I can work with, and hopefully others can work with too if they choose, to mitigate that possibility of thinking that that's what's necessary. And like, what else can I do, right? So creating this thing, thinking, oh yay, possibilities, we can explore our possibilities, and then learning that the last possibility of being told that you should just take this pill and go forever is presented, and kind of seeing, oh, like this is why I was in such an urgent state to create, right? And then with everything that's happened in the last number of years, and then everything that will happen in these next years, up until May and whatever else the world is going to throw at us, it's like, that's what I needed to learn and do up to that point to have something created, and all the things I created, which is, a small contribution, and not knowing how to get it out there really. And then also getting to the point where I see, okay, this is almost like the worst possibility for someone who is like me, like diagnosed bipolar, maybe going to the psych ward, which is a bad possibility. It sucks. And then being told, no, we're not going to uphold your life at all costs and all, like, we're not going to affirm your life. We're going to also possibly just say, well, oh, we've tried, you've tried, maybe you should try this, as if, as if there's another try afterwards, which there isn't. So anyways, also feeling so helpless about it, not for myself, but for others, and also understanding there's a lot of people that will be super wanting this, and if it's passed into law, that will be legal. And so just all I'm saying is having all this information at the same time as like losing my energy to be able to do anything about it, to just sort of have to sit with it. And, I was in like a crisis about it for sure. And now it's like, well, it's not like, what am I going to do about this? I already have tools and things like for myself and things I want to share. But it's like, how am I going to be with this? And how am I going to move forward with this? And one of the Diary of a CEO podcasts I was listening to today was a man talking about resilience. I think his name was Mo Gawdat, or Godwat. I can't remember if it was Gawd or Gadw, something. But anyways, I found his sharing very, very nice and very useful, and I liked his presence a lot. And he was basically saying that we kind of need to train ourselves because, like, he wasn't like sensationalizing anything, but he was just saying, like, with all these converging crises in the world and like the advent of AI, we're going to be in for some stuff. Like, we don't even really know what. It's just quite probable. And so he was saying, we kind of need to train ourselves. He wasn't like overemphasizing this, but at some point he was kind of saying we needed to train ourselves. And, he's saying people need to sort of train their minds from the perspective of like things that are going to get bad. And that's sort of what re-uncovery is like training oneself with one's possibilities. Because, for people who are in the being diagnosed with a mental illness space and people who end up accessing the psych ward, this could be presented, right? And so the one thing is trying to not be in a state to have to access the psych ward, which there's things that we can do. And then there's also getting the point where one is exploring one's possibilities to the point where life really begins to thrive. And for me, like, I feel like, I don't know, it's one of those things where somebody can be, for example, a great psychologist or something, yet they have their own problems, right? Like, they can help someone with problems, but they have their own problems. And maybe not the greatest problems with relationships and things like that, because they have the training to do that and blah, blah. So for me, it's like, I want to share, you can live your possibilities. Like, even with a diagnosis of bipolar, and some people are, but here's more ways to look at that and explore that. But it's like, sometimes I get stuck in this place where I can't even explore my own possibilities. So I feel like that compartmentalization where, I might be able at some times to be like, yeah, things are possible. But then I'm in this space where all I can do is stare at like true crime or quite a few like educational YouTube videos as well. I watched one today actually on the Veritasium YouTube channel, and he was talking about black holes and the possibility of white holes, and the way that he explained it and drew these diagrams and stuff, and like the geometry. Not saying it's like that, but the mathematics makes it look like that for sort of visualization. And if it was with white holes, there could be parallel universes, but we wouldn't be able to get to the parallel universe because the wormhole, as you go through it, is, if you're not traveling faster than the speed of light, it just, goes to like a point and you can't actually get across. And then it goes on. But then he said, well, we haven't found proof of white holes, and they think they don't exist. But then they thought, even though the mathematics showed that black holes existed, they thought they didn't exist. And now they have, photographs from satellites of, or whatever they are, of that. So that is to say that white holes could exist. And, for me, I've actually had experiences of going to a parallel reality. And I've had insights and that there is another Earth. And they show that in the video, that there could be. But that's if there's white holes and blah, blah. And, how do we know that when we have a near-death experience, we don't actually die and we go to a parallel version of the world where we wake up in a different scenario, blah, blah. Maybe in the other world, something else actually happened altogether. And so, there could be ways, it just might not be witnessable to anybody. There could be, I've had experiences, okay? That's all I'm trying to say. So it really fascinates me to see it visualized like that. So that's how I started the day. But by the end of the day, I'm watching something about crazy diabolical things. And I do think it's a level of consciousness. So I can sense that. I remember my very first time when I was first discharged from the hospital in 2011. Well, I was hospitalized twice within a couple months. And then when I was discharged, I was, I would say, depressed for at least 4 or 5 months. At least 4 months. And I spent all my time watching, back in the day, that was years ago, it was kind of low consciousness things. There was a show called 1,000 Ways to Die or something on A&E or something stupid. So I'd watch that and I'd play Angry Birds and that's all I'd be able to do. So that consciousness, I still have that level of consciousness. It just doesn't really occupy that much of my time. And then for people who might be on, say, a 24-hour cycle, 7 days a week, 24 hours, 9 to 5 or whatever the schedule, but just being able to have sort of relatively consistent energy day to day throughout the year, give or take. Maybe somebody watches an hour of that kind of stuff a week. Not that kind particularly, but just sort of that low level wasted consciousness stuff. Or I can imagine, I don't scroll on Instagram or anything, but I, scroll on YouTube and watch usually long form YouTube. Now they put some shorts in there and I do click on a few, but I prefer videos that are 10 minutes, usually mostly 45 minutes to an hour. So I get stuck in that for weeks. And it's strange this time because I have this sense man, there's something else I want to do. It's almost like being stuck with a friend who, they're staying over for a week, they come to visit, and all of a sudden they want to do all these things that you just don't even want to do, but you have to do them because the friend's there, and you're oh, I just can't wait until they're gone. I haven't had any experience like this ever, in a long time. But I'm just sharing it to say, it's I have this friend here, and the friend's yeah, I want to watch this true crime and, some educational YouTube video, and I don't want to go outside. Let's just stay in and eat some healthy food. So some things are okay, and some things are I want to get back to research. I want to start writing again. I want to read. I want to learn. I want to be inspired. I want to be creative. And I can't because this friend is here. And since I've been reading that book, Whole Brain Living by Jill Bolte Taylor, and she talks about the 4 characters, I feel like I'm stuck in the lower characters of my brain. I can't access the higher creativity or the higher level thinking and planning. Yeah, it's just not there. But I also have the sense that it will come back, and it's like sort of waiting. And I also have the sense that I really might be able to push myself to do it, but I can't quite do that. And maybe that not being able to push myself to do it is like a protective mechanism, because I really am supposed to be resting and waiting for it to come back online. So I don't know how much of it is like waiting for it to come back online and how much of it is I should be pushing myself a little bit more. It feels like I don't know if you have those days where like you get up in the morning and then you do this, you do the next thing, and you're doing so much and you've got so much done already, and you look at the clock, it's like 1 o'clock. You're like, whoa, this day is long. And then there's other days, like today I probably got up around 9 or 8:30, which isn't too bad. And then the clock is like 2 o'clock. I haven't really done anything, and I feel like, oh, there's no time to really do anything, which isn't true, right? But it feels like the time, maybe because my brain is so slow, it could be true because my brain is so slow that if I tried to do something that, say I wanted to write an article to take me 2 hours, like it might take me 10, and then I literally don't have enough time in the day to finish it. So it's like not bothering to start things because the momentum and the time dilation of it, the expansion of the time that it would take, makes it so like, no, I actually can't do that. So I'm just going to do this kind of consumer activity of watching these videos and, not showering. I want to shower, maybe get out for a walk, but didn't happen. And, it's going on longer than I would wish. But I did have a pretty good wave of the energy for, so-called mania. So I guess I won't worry too much about that. I went into kind of the future in a way. Like I created something, a prototype for something that would be something that I'd be able to create in the future if I got my embodiment right, if I built a co-creativity network, things like that. And, wanting to have a co-creator, or I can't remember, I was watching this business talk. I've been watching some business YouTube videos, which is a good sign because I'm trying to pick up on this stuff because my mind does not work on business at all. It's hard for me to imagine how vast the world is and how many people there are. It's hard for me to imagine that there's millions upon millions of people in the world with the same diagnosis as me. And some of those people would resonate with some things that I'm creating, and I don't know what that is about that I feel like there's no one, because I haven't met that many people. I met some, for sure. But just because you meet someone who they have the same diagnosis, that's one thing. And then resonating about the perspectives around it, or having many perspectives around it, or even building more perspectives around it. I've met a handful of people, but then even with that, we all have our ups and downs and dips, and living with it is challenging within itself, just to sort of survive and meet basic needs and take care of oneself and, be, quote, motivated to take care of oneself. Who knows what, right? It's not like this 24-hour thing where it's like, hey, let's talk once a week and share ideas to build this and that and the next thing. It's like, I'm so non-linear, right? So what I'm saying is finding a co-creator, or I think he called it an equal partner or something, to be like, hey, I got some ideas. I want to create something, but, I want to be upfront about what it is my biorhythm capabilities are, which might actually change having somebody who is on the 24-hour, 7-day a week, 365-day a year, with the few sick days or whatever, a few weeks vacation. I guess I'm on vacation right now, which is like a vacation from my creativity and things like that, which isn't really that fun. My vacation is actually most people's just downtime after work that they accumulate throughout the year. in the evening times, 2 hours a night or whatever it is, watching TV or watching movies or sports over the year. Like, I experienced that just over a couple week period of time. And then after that, I don't watch that stuff at all for the whole year. Like, I didn't really watch much at all from the last 6 months of last year and the first couple months of this year. So like 8 months straight, I think I watched maybe like 1 or 2 movies. I didn't watch any true crime. And I was on a pretty good roll. But now it seems like it ends up being the same thing as a quote normal person. But it's just a different concentration of them over that, like, it's chunked into this period of time. So like maybe I'm just as quote productive, and maybe a lot of other people with this diagnosis are too. It's just like it has nothing to do with the 24-hour clock. It from some research they say like more people have more energy and creativity and so-called mania in the spring, summer. So like it might have more to do with the seasons than it has to do with the clock that we've created. And there's a lot of value to that and being able to sleep and everything for sure. But then like now I've been sleeping a lot more and waking up sometimes at like 12:30, whereas for months I was sleeping like 11 to 7 a.m. or something. Like it was a good sleep cycle. So yeah, it's just different. And that's why I'm saying it would be great to have someone who can co-create and be like, oh, like your brain's not working for a month? No worries. Like, just, there could be things that I could do if somebody else was doing this other part, But without that other part, then I just can't even do anything because I need like the next thing in the line. So for example, if we created some kind of re-uncovery thing, just for example, and somebody was able to do like keeping up with social media, I might be able to look through some of my content and find the content for that and then pass it to the person who can do all that. Now, soon or someday, I'm sure, AI will do all that. So I'm thinking that as I'm thinking, oh, I need a co-creative partner, it could be that technology catches up with that. And that's another reason why, and I've already said this, that even if I just keep doing self-dialogue, because that should be easy enough to do, eventually AI might be able to help creating the content from that. And even to the point where I could use the self-dialogue content to train the custom AI thing and to be like my mind. And then if that's connected up to all the social media apps, it can just do it for me. I'm not necessarily against that because of how I have a lot of, what I see as unique channeled content, harvested from the right brain, harvested from, the right brain isn't just the right brain. It's all the moments we've walked through reality and all the moments the right brain has seen, like the holistic perception. The subconscious has processed 11 million bits per second and the conscious is like 60. So we have that 11 million bits per second every second somewhere. And at some point when people start to kind of like wake up and be a bit more conscious, they have more of a more conscious awareness of some of that. And then, so that's to me what's in the right brain. And so not only can we access the right brain, but we're accessing, which is also the past stores of humanity, but it's also the kind of the past store of our existence as a human being, the holistic version of the story of our life, including the missed possibilities. It kind of has everything. It's the labyrinth, really. So that's why also I'm glad that I'm getting back to kind of the present and being somewhat embodied and doing more embodiment projects, like getting my health to whatever place I can, because for me, like in 3 years, I'll turn 45. And I kind of want to know, like, who I am and how I really feel about things by that time, by the time I'm 45, for many different reasons. It just seems natural. Also because I have, over the years, had a lot of synchronicities with the number 427. So 4 is April, 27 is 2027, right? And that's when I turn 45 as well. So there's significance with that number. And then this 3 years being like 3 years till I turn 45, which is in 2027, 427, as well as like what's happening with this made for mental illness thing, as well as like, can I get back to a clean embodiment? And seeing that the time now is to do that because I have space to do that where I can feel safe. And that's something I realized recently. Like I've been having realizations, a lot of them, more so like reorienting to everything. And one of them is about, I don't have to leave the house. Like, yeah, I have to go to work and stuff. But like, other than that, which is like between like around 15 hours a week right now, I don't have to leave the house. And feeling like I kind of have to or should, yeah, I should go out and go for a walk. I do need to go out and get groceries. But like, I can just stay here. If I don't feel safe, if I don't feel linear, if I need to sleep till 2 p.m, I can just do that. Like, I can just do that right now. Like, I have that kind of freedom. And it's not financial freedom, that's for sure. Like, I have to deal with that. But I mean, in terms of just sort of realizing, okay, I'm not linear. I'm not able to just do everything like clockwork right now. Sometimes I'm very good at doing that. Like, okay, I'm going to go out and do these errands, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'll pop by here, and then I'll see this person, and blah, blah. Right now I can't do that. And instead of resisting it, which I'm sure I still subtly am, like today having an intention to be like, okay, yeah, I want to sit and enjoy my coffee, watch a bit, and then kind of see what I do, and I have these few ideas of what I could do, and then doing none of it, and then realizing, oh, tomorrow I was going to maybe go somewhere, and realizing, no, I probably won't. I'll probably just stay here. Just being okay with that, I guess. Being okay with it. But I think, for example, when I said seeing that video where that young girl, teenager, she, was in a car accident and has this huge positive attitude. It seems like, yeah, I guess it seems like a little bit of this self-perception of like, yes, I am supposedly physically able and capable, but I'm not at the same time. And it's strange because I think a lot of people who have a diagnosis perceive that and then say to the world, like, it's an illness like any other illness, and you just can't see it. And like someone like me, I could be sitting on a couch. It's like, well, why isn't she doing it? Why isn't she doing anything? Why isn't she working 9 to 5? Sitting there, like, completely intact, apparently. It's like, I don't know. Like, what's up with this? And so what I'm saying is, like, I haven't really thought of that over the years because I've never really taken on the, oh, I'm mentally ill, so don't stigmatize me for my limitations, though I've been aware of my limitations. But I feel like I'm kind of stigmatizing myself because I know what I'm capable of at the best of times. It's not actually, I'm seeing this now. It's not exactly the way I've seen it in the online comments and the few that I've read over the years. Like, don't stigmatize me because, I can't do these things because I'm mentally ill. It's my illness. And I'm like stigmatizing myself, like, okay, brain, when are you going to come back online so I can be creative again? Because I have gone into my creative capacities to the point where, for the most part, I can utilize them in daily life for long periods of time. Like I said, over the last 4 years, I've had mostly creativity and a few lulls, and I had like 10 months of lots and lots of creativity without losing track, without losing the ability to plan, without losing the ability to be like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to write and I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work on this presentation. I'm going to, like, knowing what I'm going to do. And now I basically went in and I put projects in my iCal and I took them all out and I put them in reminders. So they're all in there. There's tons. There's probably more than I can finish in many years. But it's more like, okay, now that's kind of on the back burner and I almost have to start again because I can go back into those somewhat. But then I realized, like, if one day there's more people who are doing Reuncovery and we start some kind of like co-creative something, then a lot of my ideas are there and other people have their ideas, and then we can like match based on ideas, and maybe other people have other pieces of the puzzle. So that's the great thing about technology is by, I've always said to myself, or I have harvested and documented and written down most of the insights that come to me. And then now I also have projects and ideas and things that aren't just like random insights, but they're more like pieces of projects that are somewhat started, or ideas for projects, or parts of the project that branch into this or reach out in this way or that way. And I have those documented too. And that's great. Like, it's like waiting for other people to be a part of it. And so I'm wondering a little bit more about the co-creativity thing, and wondering if somebody will come along and kind of help with that. Yeah. So I'm sure there's a lot more to that as well. And I know my mind will come back online. And it did briefly one day, and I was able to write 2 articles. I don't remember when that was, like maybe a week or so ago. But I think I've been like this since, I think it's probably been about 2 months-ish. Though that's not even that true, because I was doing some dialogue with ChatGPT, and then I posted a bunch of articles for Substack. So it's probably only been like a month, but it hasn't been as consistent these last few months. But see, if I was really able to enjoy this, because it's not super suffering, it's more just like not being able to do that level of thing. Being able to do body level things, food, sleep, learning somewhat, like passively watching educational YouTube videos and things, but not these like higher level cognitive things. And then, sometimes my mind can get into such a high level that like super insightful. But when it's like that, they're very disjointed to the point where I don't even know how useful that is. It could be useful one day when you can like put all those disjointed pieces into AI and it can put the puzzle together for you. So I think, the way my brain is operating will eventually be like, okay, that was why. Like, sometimes when you're, like, say you have an experience like an extraordinary state, or people have near-death experiences, or now people have like psychedelic experiences, and when you integrate, you're like, oh, like that's why that bad thing that happened, like random bad thing that happened. I can see how that got me here, and I'm here now because of this, and now I'm supposed to do that. So I think that's what's gonna happen with all of this too. It'll be like, oh, like that's why my brain takes a rest, or that's why lots of different things. It will all, I think, come together. And even with what I'm learning now, like I think I was talking about the insight I got from reading how marathon runners will have demyelination happen in their brain because they're theorizing that the body is starting to use that brain myelin as energy because they're burning so much energy in the marathon. And I'm like likening that to mania and how it's like a marathon, because I was basically energetic for a good 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, like really a lot of energy. Just go from say 6 a.m. till midnight, wandering around kind of like a marathon in here for days upon end. And I can see how that could be a mechanism by which the brain slows down and kind of runs out of energy and needs to rest before it starts to come online, right? And you can almost imagine that when the brain is like super myelinated and fast, and there's even like layers of myelin. So once it gets all those good layers of myelin back in there after the rest, the deep rest, and like finally that last layer of myelin that's needed to reach into those circuits to really be energetic and almost be in a state of mania, are there, it's like the switch goes on, right? And then you're like doing stuff, and there's other biological processes of using like other energy stores and vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, and trying to maintain that and stay in that state. And then eventually it's just like using all that up as well as the myelin. Like maybe the myelin is like the last thing that comes online, because first the brain is replenishing all the other stuff, and then it replaces the myelin, and then it's like, and then it depletes all that stuff that it built up, and then the myelin gets depleted, and then it's like, oh, like I feel like I can't reach those upper circuits. So that's why this myelin thing is resonating with me. And I have a feeling that eventually they'll say there's links with demyelination and bipolar, and they'll say, oh, that's like the deterioration of the brain, but who knows when they'll find out that depression is what allows a person to regenerate the myelin. And this would explain some of the cyclical nature of like, quote, bipolar. And of course, the cycles are different for lots of different people. And I also think that how we're told, like, just to sort of be afraid of ourselves, and we don't learn to harvest the benefits of mania, especially. I don't think there's anything out there that teaches to harvest the benefits of mania. There's maybe a little bit out there, but that's my main thing. Because, that's what I experienced the last 10 months, was embodying, being able to use the benefits of mania. I wasn't manic until the end for like a couple weeks, but the rest of the time I was being super creative. And that's to me because I built all the creative circuitry over the years to be able to, like, it's like weightlifting. If you lift weights, you can lift heavier and heavier weights. So if I keep practicing my creativity, I can do the creativity that I got from mania. I wasn't creative before I ever went into mania in 2011 at all. And then, that has built up strong circuits, and then, strong, like, even I'm sure there's more vascularization in my brain around the creativity circuits and stuff, and able to bring the nutrients and remove the waste products and everything. And I even I have an inverter machine where it like turns you upside down, because I had the feeling that there's something about getting the nutrients to the brain, but it might not help that much with the myelination, right? So finding the myelination insight, and again, it's not like scientifically proven for bipolar, but for me, when I look at that, I immediately see that it's likely a huge factor. And I can see that from my own lived experience and what I know about biology. But again, I'm not a researcher with a lab who's able to design these experiments, and maybe it'll take 20 years before anything like this comes out, but I can already see that it makes a lot of sense. And it wouldn't be the only thing, but it would be a big possibility, because even if it is partially in the hypermania that the brain gets demyelinated, it would be a lot of different things going on before it gets to that as well. And also, like I was talking about the single nucleotide polymorphisms and how my polymorphism profile isn't very good. So that means I'm not very good with dealing with stress. because one of the SNPs is for COMT, and that's what helps to change epinephrine back to norepinephrine. And then when more epinephrine gets produced, it changes it back to norepinephrine. Without that, it's just going to keep going epinephrine, epinephrine, epinephrine. That's fight or flight. With enough of that, I can see that that's panic. With enough of that, I can see how that's psychosis, anxiety, panic, all those things, right? It can't turn that off. And last time in mania, I had like a small moment of panic, and I would say like a few minutes of psychosis and like some fearful thoughts about some people getting hurt, and then my heart pounding like this, and that's like an adrenaline, and that was gone. I took like an antipsychotic PRN to sleep, and I actually was able to get back to back to creativity, which has never happened before. It was strange because I didn't actually lose my creative momentum. Usually that's when it would stop, is when I have that peak like fear experience. That would be the demyelination or being derailed. And that's when I would be in this state for a couple weeks where I couldn't really think straight. But I didn't lose that. I was able to get right back on the creativity within a few days. And so that really shows something, that it was a different cycle. And it was like, no, the universe was like, no, you have to keep creating. You created this project, and now you have to keep creating to finish this other project, which was the Reuncovery system. And then you can take a break. So after finding out about MAID for mental illness, I've kind of finished the Reuncovery system thing, made a video and as a webinar about it, and did a bit more stuff. And now it's like, okay, now it's time to take a break, think, integrate, really consider like how much I don't want to be a part of this paradigm. Like I never have wanted to, but now I feel like it's important to try to transcend it. And I was speaking with someone, I won't say his name right now, but he's kind of an advocate person who made a documentary about bipolar and now has services to help coach people, and also helps with like different things. So anyways, I just had like a free consultation, and he charges for his services, rightly so, but he was recommending that I don't go it alone, that I should have support, and that he works with, or is going to be working with, like holistic psychiatrists who can help with the protocols, and you follow the protocol exactly and come off the meds with support. And I think that's very good that is happening. But unfortunately, like the price point is not something that I can do right now. It's just not. And also I do know myself pretty well. Like I've been experiencing crisis and came off meds once before and had a crisis, got through it. And, the last time I felt like that crisis was happening, that same day that I felt like it was going to happen, maybe I kind of did it subconsciously, like without even thinking, yeah, it's going to happen for sure. But I was just like, I just happened to get myself prepared for it, and then just happened to happen that night. So I feel like when I tapered off years ago, I was feeling like, oh, I'm just never going to take these meds again. So I started to get worse. And then I was like really trying to like get through it without just taking something to just nip the not so good part. And that made it really hard. And I don't think I would do that again. I would do this like, okay, there's probably going to be a hard part again in the future that I'm going to have to nip it. And I'll nip it with the same antipsychotic PRN, but this time I just won't be on the daily maintenance stuff, if that happens to happen. And like I said, I just want to try it myself first, because I've done it before. I've done so much self-dialogue. Like, I know myself better than a holistic psychiatrist that doesn't know me. And another bipolar man who, tapered off and everything, and I think it's very advisable to tell people, like, make sure you have lots of support, and here's a holistic psychiatrist to do it. And the holistic psychiatrist, they're going to advise my doctor, who wouldn't do it anyway. And like I don't have a psychiatrist, I have a GP. So just like, that's just not even going to work. And like I said in a different video, like, I'm just going to go with the faith. Like, I really do think the time is now to try and see how that goes, because I just feel it. I feel like if it's true that I'm supposed to transcend the system, because that's going to help with the next 3 years to be able to feel who I am without this. And it's important to know that, because once Made for Mental Illness is in place, it'll be scarier to do that, because I know, like, if I do happen to end up in the psych ward, they're probably going to offer me the death pill. They'll say something like imagine it's 2027 and I decide to taper off then, and then I somehow end up in the psych ward. They'll be like, well, you've been at this, it's for 16 years. You've had a label, like, don't you think it's time to just call it quits? We can help you out with that. And that would scare me. So if I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it my way, I've got to do it now, not later. So yeah, that's all I'm saying about that. And it was good for me to hear that perspective and know that help is out there for people who can afford it. It's like very cost prohibitive. Though, I guess if I was an American and I was like paying ungodly amounts for treatment anyway, depending on what it is and what kind of insurance I'd have, then maybe it's not that far off. And it's the right amount for those people who are qualified for being a holistic psychiatrist, just not something that I can pay for right now. And I really have like a stronger sense of faith, because I realized my own definition of faith, which is like, the universe knows better. So I don't need to know, right? The universe knows better. And I had an interesting experience where I don't really pray, but I was feeling some like stress as I was falling asleep. And so I was saying a bit of a prayer, like, God help us kind of thing, actually. And it helped my heart stress go down a little bit. I could feel it. And then I was trying to fall back asleep this morning, because I generally wake up a few times in the night to go to the washroom. And I was saying something. I don't remember what I was saying, but it was something like a prayer, but not really. And I'd never experienced this before, because I've never talked to myself while I was half asleep, wanting to go back to sleep. But I had the strangest experience where I started to see my dreams, like, very vividly. Like, I was talking myself back into my dreams, even though I was talking to myself in my head, saying some kind of almost like affirmation or like self-created mantra to put myself back into a dream. It was really interesting, actually. I hope I remember to do that, because like I said, I was half asleep, and I just started doing that by intuition, because I really wanted to go back to sleep for a bit more, because I'm trying to get as much sleep as I can right now, just to heal my brain and everything. So yeah, I'm glad I at least talked to myself, and I wanted to, even though it's kind of late. I was like, all I've done is sit around all day. Tomorrow I give myself permission to sit around. I have a few things to do while sitting around, but I do need to do it. And maybe just not. Usually when I don't tell myself to do something, I'm surprised that I do end up doing something. And today, I think I put a tiny little bit more pressure, like just a tiny bit, maybe more like an assumption that I would eventually get up and do something. And then on Thursday, it's supposed to be a little bit warmer, like it's taking a while to warm up. And I'm trying to set the intention to Uber to a place that I like to rollerblade, and then Uber back. And I want that to be my thing that I do a couple times a week. Because I feel like it'll almost be like starting again from before I was diagnosed with bipolar. The summer before, like 6 months before, I was rollerblading. And so that'll be like 13 years ago. Yeah, I had a bit of trouble, leading up to being diagnosed, like a bit of a challenge. And actually, I calculated that on May 11th of this year, the sound of that event that was challenging will reach the sun. So, something happened indoors. So the sun couldn't see, like this, the sun sees stuff, or the cosmos can calculate it better and understand better what happens if it happens outside. When it happens in a building, it's like a little bit disconnected from the cosmic rays and everything. Like this just kind of like out there, right? But I don't know why it came to me a while ago to like calculate how long for sound to reach the sun, right? So when the sun knows, like finds out all the information on that day through the sound, it can respond at the speed of light, but it can't until it gets all the information. So I have a feeling that, after that day, there'll be some whatever. So that is also in alignment with the fact that maybe when the sun knows, it'll be like, okay, yeah, you can heal now, right? It's been that long. And, healing, whatever, I don't know that much about that, but I just have a sense that there's a lot more things in alignment. And yeah, just how do I want to be in these next few years? Because, I want to be able to reach out to people. And I think being in a stronger state of embodiment, like being really strong in my embodiment, and then letting the context or content arise as it does in an embodied, moving about in space and time way. And even like trying to not do that for a while until, I get some health and strength back, and then going for it, or whatever happens. Whatever happens, happens.